Welcome back to Bloodstained Backstories. I'm your host, Jace, and today's case is an American serial killer, child molester, and sexual offender located in Spring Hill, Florida. And that is William Billy Mansfield Jr. He is responsible for at least 5 murders of women and girls between the years of 1975 and 1980. He would bury the bodies of 4 of his victims in the yard of his home located in Spring Hill. At one point, he would travel with his brother to California where they would rape and strangle another victim. Billy was born in Michigan in 1956 and is the oldest of 5 children. His father was a convicted child molester and had served several sentences in Michigan and Nevada. I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from that tree. When he was 14, he would drop out of high school. He altered his birth certificate so that he could serve in the army, and he became an alcoholic while he was serving, and not long after he decided to experiment with various drugs. As a result of his addictions, he was sent to the Veterans Administration Hospital in Tampa, Florida in 1970 and 1980. He did get married in 1975 and had 2 children, but would become divorced in 1979. According to his ex-wife, Billy was a closeted bisexual. He would often bring men home from gay bars and have sex with them right in front of her. Yeehaw, sounds like a great Friday night. She described him as easygoing, but with a violent temper when he was drunk. Well, that sounds like most rednecks. They probably should make a country song out of it. On New Year's Eve in 1975, a 15-year-old girl, Eileen Ziegler, who was on vacation with her mom and stepdad, went missing from KOA Campground near Brooksville. The last time she would be seen was heading to the campground showers. The next day, her parents reported her missing when she did not return back to the campsite. Her parents thought maybe she had run away, as some teenagers do at this time. Search parties were organized and the search for her began. A few people stated they had seen the girl matching her description riding a motorbike, and when they asked where she was going, she stated she was returning to her home state of Michigan. But there were also reports of Eileen talking to a man in his 20s near the shower area. They said she later entered his car. The car was described as being a 1966 Ford Fairlane with a Florida license plate. In 1977, Billy would plead guilty to sexual misconduct charges against a babysitter in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He received 6 months imprisonment and 36 months probation. Shortly after leaving jail, he assaulted 2 teenagers in the same city and was sentenced back to prison for violating conditions of his parole. Feel like he deserved more than just violation of parole? Sure. As part of your parole, yeah, don't touch little girls. How about you touch little girls again and we charge you with touching little girls? He shared the cell with a guy who confided that Billy had murdered an 11-year-old girl. And Billy ran with that information and testified against the guy in exchange for a shortened sentence and was released after only serving 1 year's time. What a stellar guy he was. In 1980, Billy was forced an 18-year-old girl, Pamela Sherrill, into a van and drove her to a trailer that he rented, where he hit her, cutting her lip and bruised her neck. Pamela did report the incident to police, but unfortunately when they went to arrest him, he wasn't there. 5 months later, he was arrested in Santa Cruz. He posted bail and was set free again. Way to the criminal justice system be hard at work here. In December of 1980, passing motorists saw a body in a drainage ditch in Watsonville, California. The coroner ruled that the cause of death was strangulation, and her clothes had been torn apart. Her blouse and pants were lowered around her ankles. She would be identified as 20-year-old Ray Sailing, a married mother of 3 whose husband had last seen her the previous day. 4 days later, Billy and his brother Gary were arrested by a rookie police officer in Nevada for questioning of Ray's murder. The 2 men lied about their identities and ages. The officer noted that their physical description matched the Mansfield brothers, and they took them into custody. A few days later, both brothers were arraigned on murder charges concerning Renee's death. Of course, they pled not guilty to the murder charges, and they were ordered to stand for trial for Renee's murder in February 1981. In March of 1981, the Hernando County Sheriff's Department obtained a search warrant to excavate the Mansfield property in Spring Hill. This was based on information they received about there being bodies on the property. They received the information from an informant, and the authorities searched and dug up the area until they located a skull and some bones covered by a blanket in a shallow grave. The bones were sent for examination and a pathologist to see if it was the Zieglers. The pathologist concluded that the bones were of a female age under the age of 20. The authorities had a search warrant only for Ziegler, but suspected there could be more bodies, so they continued their excavations. Officers from Tampa, Florida, and metal detecting experts also aided in the excavations. The body that was found was tentatively identified as Ziegler based on the characteristics of the skeleton and a missing tooth. Jewelry was also located, but the Ziegler's parents did not recognize it. There was continuous excavations with varying success over the next few weeks. Bones of chickens and cows were found until March 24th, when a small sack of human bones was found underneath the fireplace. Investigators continued digging and plowing water pipes and electrical wiring that had been installed. Eventually, they did find 3 more skeletons. All 3 of them would belong to young women, and they would be determined to be the following people. The first is a Jane Doe. It was initially thought that she was 13 years old. Teresa Fillingham was described as a white female between the ages of 20 and 30, and she would be identified in July of 2022 with generic genealogy. She was identified as a 16-year-old girl that was reported missing on May of 1980. Sandra Jean Graham was 21 and last seen on April 27, 1980 in the parking lot of a liquor lounge, accompanied by a man who was described as a biker. She left her cigarettes, car keys, and eyeglasses at the bar. Her body, although it was decomposed, was identified through forensic dentistry. The skull of 2 Jane Does were sent for reconstruction, but no positive matches were found. The skull was finally identified in 2022 as Teresa Fingenbrim, but the others had not been identified. Billy admitted to killing Carol Ann Barrett, who was 18 years old. Being he is serving a life sentence in California, and followed by 4 life sentences in Florida, the state declined to pursue any additional charges, as there's only so many times a person can serve a life sentence. I suppose that makes sense, however, that doesn't truly give closure to those families, knowing that their person has been captured and appropriately charged in the criminal justice system. When Billy would go to trial, it was moved because of the discovery of the bodies, and they wanted to avoid publicity bias against him. His previous encounters with the law and the alleged sightings of the night of the siblings' death were recalled. Even with all this information, the jury was deadlocked, and a new trial was granted after 6 months. I can't imagine being the jury with this kind of evidence. Bodies found on the property that you lived in. How can you be undecided? Characteristics that matched the people who are missing. Dentistry that positively identified some of the people on your property. I don't know about you, but I don't have dead bodies in my backyard, especially when you already have a violent criminal past. Maybe you buy a house from somebody who previously had bodies. Sure, but this guy didn't do that. This jury was ridiculous. On October 27, 1981, Billy, aided by a 22-year-old inmate, unchained himself while at the recreation yard and climbed up a roof. They jumped down together on the ground and fled. They were spotted by a woman who first ignored them, thinking they were wearing orange tracksuits and out jogging, and then she notified the police. Now, sure, at this time in the 80s, neon colors were very, very popular. This was the time where we were all seeing neon yellows and greens and oranges. So you got to remember that today, if we were to see some random person wearing a bright orange jumpsuit, it would stand out as, hey, prison jumpsuit. But back then, maybe not. Sniffer dogs were also used and dispatched to the surrounding areas were searched, and at approximately 11:45 p.m. a man reported seeing 2 suspicious men running by his house. The police investigated the area and found 2 sets of footprints leading to the river. After 11 hours of searching, a disheveled and tired Billy was arrested without any incident. He was found hiding in some bushes and still wearing his prison clothes. About an hour and a half later, the other prisoner was found, and they were both returned to jail. Since the first trial ended in a deadlock, we move on to our second trial. And while Billy was in Santa Cruz jail, a Hernando County judge indicted Billy for the murder of one of the 4 victims found underneath his property, and he was also charged with attempted sexual battery in Sherrell's case. The new trial was scheduled for February 8th, 1982. Billy's brother Gary and a woman known as Cindy agreed to testify against him. The trial would last for 2 weeks, and Billy was convicted of Renee Sealing's murder and sent back to prison to await his sentence. He was handed a 25-year to life sentence concerning all of the homicides that he committed in Florida. After initially claiming his innocence, Billy pleaded guilty to all 4 and was given life terms as part of his plea bargain. Billy made a statement saying, "I am pleading guilty because I am guilty of the charges and I have no other reason." Well, it's about time you man up, fucker. Shortly after his sentencing, several inmates at the Hernando County Prison attempted to break out and they were stopped by the authorities. During this escape, Billy was attempted freedom and he declined. What a good guy. Good guy. Just declining the freedom. But he also learned from the first time that you're not going to get away forever, dipshit. So that's probably a good thing. Well, the case of Billy Mansfield is a tragic one that involves several women across several states. Ultimately, he was apprehended, convicted, and sentenced to life, which is great. We needed someone like that off the streets. And I am glad that that took place. Let us know what you think about this case, as well as the victims that were involved in the case, in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to Bloodstained Backstories, and don't forget to follow us on social media and stay updated. Share your thoughts and connect with your fellow true crime enthusiasts. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your go-to podcast platform. Make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode. And join us next week as we uncover another chilling case. Until then, stay safe and stay curious.